For many of us who have been around CISPES for many years, this was going to be the culmination of 23 years of solidarity with the people of El Salvador. And you'll recall that CISPES declared public, open solidarity with the Farabundo Martin National Liberation Front in 1980. So we've had a very, very close relationship to the party, to the popular movement, to every sector in El Salvador who have been struggling for social, economic, and political justice. We came here thinking this was a conjuncture, that the Frente would grab power of the executive branch and it would help dramatically to influence the change of this society. Keep in mind, they still have 31 members of the National Assembly. More people live under FMLN mayors than any other party in the country. So with that strong base, this election was going to culminate, we thought, in fundamental transformation. And it didn't work out that way. But we have seen as we moved around the country since the election that the spirit of the FMLN, the spirit of the popular movement, the spirit of the campesinos, the students, the unionists, people who are struggling to protect the working class and the poor, the unemployed of this country, have just as strong a spirit today as they did prior to the March 21st elections. It has been inspiring, for instance, to see today at the Oscar Romero commemoration, thousands of red shirts, strong presence of the Frente, the popular movement. This is going to be a power that the Arena Party is still going to have to reckon with. And in only 2 years, there will be congressional elections here. There will be contests for the National Assembly. So we're on the verge of a new initiative to intensify and escalate the power of the Frente in the National Assembly. And that's going to be an objective. Are we disappointed? Of course we're disappointed. The formula that they presented as president and vice president was strong. It was consistent with the ideals and with the vision of the war years. I first came to El Salvador around '83 during the war, and of course, at that time, it was an entirely different experience. The war was a vicious, horrendous war. You know, the party that just won the executive branch again is the same party that founded the death squads, that killed the 4 nuns, that assassinated Archbishop Oscar Romero, that was the intellectual author of the killing of the Jesuits and the housekeeper and her daughter. And so we came here at a time when the war and the death squads were functioning. And it was, of course, very different. The security was very tight. The threat to security for delegations was extraordinary. This was a different experience. It was a political opening that had been provided by the victories of the FMLN during the war. The peace accords opened up space for political organizing. They controlled the military that were sent back to their barracks and provided a new formulation of a civilian national police, 20% of whom could come from the lowest ranks of the FMLN, 20% from the lowest ranks of the government's army, and 60% were new recruits who were given training in how to police without murder, torture, disappearances. So it's a new environment here, but still dominated by the corrupt Arena government, which is a client party of the United States. And we saw the US intervention by Roger Noriega, by Otto Reich, by former US Ambassador Rose Likens, by Governor Jeb Bush, who came into the country as a surrogate for his brother, the president. And we also saw a campaign here of lies and disinformation, an outright, I would call, a very dirty campaign in which they claimed that an FMLN victory would cause the firing of Salvadorians working in the US, their deportation, and the government termination of remittances coming back from the US to families here. We knew this was a lie. Members of Congress said it was a lie. We held a press conference in Los Angeles. It's a lie. But the threat to remittances, this enormous amount of money that comes from the United States, had a profound effect, and many families were not sure how true it was. I believe this had a profound effect. The US intervention had a profound effect. So are we angry? Are we disappointed? Yes. Are we discouraged and pessimistic? No. The FMLN, the popular movement, the student movement, the campesinos, the labor movement, those fighting privatization, which is an agenda of both the Arena Party and President Bush and his party, people fighting that agenda are going to continue to fight. And we just visited today, I'll conclude by saying, we just visited a community today, very poor community that's struggling, ex-combatants of the FMLN, out in an isolated area near Usulatan. And they said, elections come and go. Candidates appear and disappear. But the struggle of the people, the struggle for social and economic and political justice, the struggle to provide a better tomorrow for their children, to provide schools, and to provide running water, and to provide clinics for every community, and not just to intensify the profits of the elites. That struggle is going to continue. And we're all inspired here, and we're going to go back and continue our solidarity with the people of El Salvador, and change will come. Si se puede, la lucha continúa. There will be a new El Salvador, and it will be brought about by the people who are our allies here in El Salvador.